Just doing your laundry, aren't ya? Aren't ya? What's up, Vandal Clan? It's your boy Vandal. And we're back here in the studio, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of my walkthrough for the Lumberjvck remix that I did. I know things have been a little bit slow with music coming out, but let me let you know, I am sitting on a ton of tracks. I have so much music that I'm sitting on. We're just trying to get it out and get it like prepared right, you know, like to release. Like the release, we're trying to get the release schedule and everything situated. But this week we're gonna go into part 2, and shout out to Laser Focus. I am gonna make this video longer for you. I got you, no problem. So let's just jump into it. So off the chord progression then came the bass line, because I just grabbed the bass notes of the piano. So there's two things happening here. In my Lost in the Moonlight tutorial that I did, I said whenever you can play a real instrument, do it. So here I have a combination of a real... actually, I think this is just a real bass, to be honest. This is just the real bass. And what I did was I have the real bass, which is saturated and compressed so that I can get it to sound the way I want it to, and EQ'd as well. And then I also have it sent. This I don't have an amplifier on it. I have it sent to an amplifier, so I get the clean signal and the distorted signal. This is being sent to a preset in the Native Instruments guitar amp thing. What is it called? The guitar rig. I used guitar rig for the distortion on this. So basically for the bass, I didn't want to do anything crazy, and also like I'm really not that great of a bass player as far as like performing cool ass licks goes. So what I wanted to do was just give the chords a nice drive under it, so that you had like kind of like a nice bounce. Cause now this bass sounds really okay. It sounds like mediocre kind of by itself, but it sounds really good with the drums. So then after this, the drums came. Usually what I'll do is I'll EQ first, and a lot of people say you don't need to do super drastic EQs, but for me to get the sound that I wanted out of this, my EQs are pretty like really like narrow notch EQs. So that's usually what I do, and then I will throw the Camel Crusher or Saturn on there for distortion and saturation, and then also the compression. And then if I need to do anything further to get the sound there, I'll usually lean towards EQing or picking a different kick. But since I've already made this kick and I have it, like I just use the same kick because I know it's already like dope. So that's the kick, and then here is the drum stem. I don't remember if I used his... I don't think I used his stem. Yeah, I don't think I used his drum stem for this. Cause he has like a bunch of like hip hop drums for his drum and bass like breaks loop. So what I did was I went into traditional like drum and bass. I went and found a breaks loop, and I wait a second. Maybe this is actually... No, you know what it is? It's a loop. Also with this drum kit that I made in EXS. So I sampled some drums from, I forgot what it was from, but I sampled some really dope sounding drums. Oh, and here they are. Just drums. And they sound great if I could solo them. But yeah. And I did the same. I made a breaks loop in the MIDI, and I did the same processing that I'll do in my drums, or my kick drum, I threw that on my my breaks loop that I made. That's what you're hearing. My breaks loop that I guess I may have copied it from somewhere, like the actual pattern, drum pattern, but I made it in MIDI. And there are other like random vengeance loops in there. I have some loops from some different sample packs that normally wouldn't be used for that kind of music, for like a drum and bass breaks. So don't be afraid to dive into like a Moombaton pack or something like a tech house pack just to grab some new loops. Because like what I'll usually do to get my drum grooves, like for like my trap and my dubstep stuff, to sound kind of like just different. Like I'll grab drums from different genre packs, like sample packs and stuff, and I'll try to throw in like those loops as like background loops. The effect, like, to be honest, like, if you listen to the track without effects, you can see there's like a really big difference maker, and that's the effects. So it sounds okay, that transition's okay, but now listen to it if there was effects. So as you can see, like the effects really do make a big difference in creating tension to go into the next section. So don't skimp on your effects. Don't skimp on your like your transition effects, and don't skimp on like build effects too. Especially if you're making stuff like dubstep or stuff like house, like that'll be like more main room kind of house, or I mean when you're going with minimal house or like tech house, you can kind of do a little bit less or a lot less. But with things like, you know, big festival kind of tunes, you want to like make them big, and that doesn't always mean having a ton of tracks and a ton of effects, but you can't really go wrong with adding good solid you know, sweeps and swells and, you know, crashes and all that kind of stuff. So the effects are key. So now the build section, which is pretty standard kind of build. Okay, so at first it was just something like this. This was what was going on. But Lumberjvck actually he gave me some pointers, and he's like, hey, first drop sounds dope, second drop sounds dope, but the only thing that he wanted me to do was add the lead from the drop in the build up. That's actually a really good technique. You could grab like a loop of your lead that's in there, and you kind of like flip it a different way and try to like make it like build up, and add it as like kind of like this build up like riser kind of thing. You can really add some great energy and introduce that lead sound much better. So that's a great piece of advice he gave me for this remix, and something I'm going to use more often. So then I added this little guy right here. So really all it is like a simple like repeating track, you know, and it just repeats and builds up, and then I raise the pitch like, you know, an octave or whatever until it goes into the drop. And now you don't always need like a vocal chop in your drop or right before your drop or anything, but a really good drum fill really makes that drop come back really nicely. So here's my So this is a combination of a bunch of different things, reverse crashes, a few different loops that I had that just sounded cool together, and also my breaks drums. I made a little loop with my breaks drums, with the MIDI, and I after adding them with the other rhythmic elements in that part with the different loops, you can really build some really cool fills, and I really like that fill. So then now, here's the drop. Oh. Okay, so, sorry. Okay, so, the drop section. The drums are very simple. Very simple. Same kick with the Lex Luger. Really, they're just trap drums, just regular like trap drums, right? And what really makes it is the sound design in the drop and the use of the vocal chop, which Lumberjvck also recommended. He told me you should probably take a chop of the vocal and put it on like the first hit or whatever. So that's what I did, and I also added these little guys here. These are actually chops from the vocal, the lead vocal stem that he sent me. And then also there's this in here, the vocal. So the haze, like, you probably didn't even hear them in there, but you got that head bobbing sensation with the haze. So if I take the haze out of there, it still bangs hard, but like, let me mute this. Okay, now if I add the haze in there, so you definitely, I believe they were in there already, but I ended up adding them again so that they doubled in volume, so they were a little louder, because I was at the stem point, so I didn't want to like go back into the original session. So something very important with like these dubstep kind of drops is the sub and like sub slash 808. And the reason why I say sub slash 808, it's like the important part about having a big drop is having this like wall of sound that comes at you, and you want to make sure. And when I say wall of sound, I mean like all the frequencies are hitting, and it's clean. This took me a very, very long time to get down to a point where I feel like it's like, you know, professional level. And luckily, Lumberjvck thought this was like dope, so he loved the mix and everything. So the sub is very important, and you have to take care of your sub in a way that's, you have to be very aware of it. So, and what notes you're playing and what it's actually doing. Because if you have a sloppy sub and you haven't like EQ'd it correctly for the song, or if you haven't accounted for that in your lead, you know, for the sub, then your lead and your drop can sound very thin, or it could sound very messy and muddy. So you really want to make sure you have a very clean, it could be distorted, it doesn't have to be like super like sine wave, but you want to make sure you have like a good solid grasp on your sub. I feel like that was like the hardest thing for me to get a good grasp on my my sub here. So let me just show you a frequency analyzer. Let's do precision up, speed up. So you can see this is actually 3 layers. Actually, I think it's like, yeah, it's 3 layers. So I have one really like clean fat sub sine wave, which is like a sine wave. It's very clean, and I made it with serum. And the next layer on top of that is something, you can actually see it here, right here, you can see it. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Let's just get back out. Yeah, so it's right here, and you can see the harmonics. These are all like equal harmonics, and the top here, this is all from like the distorted part of the 3rd layer. But the two main layers are right here, right? And there's here you can see that my kick is in this area right here, and my sub dances around that. If you look. And as you can see, the mix of my sub goes like in this curve down here. And there's a reason for that, is because the lower frequencies you don't hear as loud, and as the frequencies get higher, you can hear them, like they're perceived as louder. So you want to make sure that you're not like killing your listener with like really high frequencies, because they just are naturally, our ears pick them up better. So you want to make sure like your whole track kind of has this sort of curve. And that's also when you learn your speakers better, you can kind of like account for that depending on the speakers you have. But the sub, now if you listen to it, it doesn't sound like it's following the kick drum. I mean, it is for the first 3 hits, but then it changes. Listen. So now let's listen to my lead. Now this is the important part. If you listen to the sub in the first half, it's following the lead. Now you hear that, and it's very super high, like high frequencies, right? So let's see what I did with this here. See, I even cut out some of the high frequencies, but if you look at it, so in this, I cut out the high frequencies, like really high above 20K about, and the really low under 50. Now if you look at my sub, the dominant frequencies are below 50 and about 100. So I'm kind of accounting for that. You can see how these two fit together. Now if I play them together, let's play this one more time. So the synths that I'm using, this is like several instances of serum, and there's automation in the MIDI clip, because you can do that in Logic. You can like pitch down or pitch up in the actual MIDI clip. So that's what I'm doing with a lot of the pitch bending that you're hearing, and then the rest of it, like I honestly just found dope presets that sound close to the way I want them. Then I process them and tweak the presets so that I can use them in the way that I wanted them. So that's something you're gonna have to sit down and do by yourself, and you're gonna have to find that sound that works for you, that you know how to like really make sound dope. And not because I don't want to show you, it's because I think it's better if you go and figure it out for yourself, because then you'll learn how to use the synths, and then you'll also learn how to manipulate them to the way that you want them to sound. So here's what the sub and the synths sound like together. So what the synths are doing, the first half, it's like a dubstep kind of feel, right? So the first half, I have the sub following what the synths are doing. And then the second half, they're not the synths. I'm talking about the sub. The first half, I'm having the sub follow what the synths are doing, and then the second half, it turns into like, it's the same sub, but I use it as an 808 under the kick drum. So if you listen to this, it's following the kick. So then the vibe changes there. It instantly feels like a trap song after that with some dubstep leads. So yeah, so that's basically, it's very simple. Like, and then I have like the effects, like simple effects. Sweep, riser. And then I also have like a reverse piano from the pianos I played in the beginning of the song. And then they come back, right? So then, alright guys, so thanks for watching this week's vlog. There's going to be one more part for the walkthroughs, and then I'm going to go back to regular vlogging. I just kind of wanted to spread this out and let you guys see how I made this remix and how I approached it. I hope for all my producer homies out there, I hope it, you know, it really helped. And if there's anything you guys want to know more of or see more of, please let me know down in the comments. And also be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video and share it. And if this is on Facebook, also just like the video and share it. And if you haven't liked my page already on Facebook, hit that like button. There'll be more stuff to come. And thanks for joining me on the journey to achieving my dreams. And thanks for joining me and watching. And I hope to continue to do this. Thanks for all the support already. And thanks for watching. Peace.